In the Gospels, we read stories called parables that Jesus told that either left people curious and wanting to know and understand more of what he was talking about, or left them extremely angry, depending on where they found themselves in the story. Well, in this video, I'll introduce you to what we call Jesus' kingdom parables, where he described what the kingdom of heaven would be like. Let's get into it. Well, hey, welcome to the channel. My name is Brian. I don't know if you're new here or you're a subscriber, but this channel is Practically Biblical, and it's all about sharing stories of Scripture and offering practical insights that I hope encourage you to explore the Bible more for yourself. The Bible can be confusing and difficult to understand, and that's why I produce these videos, to help you gain a better knowledge and understanding of the Scriptures, because I believe they'll change your life. Now let's jump into today's story. Jesus was beginning to draw large crowds everywhere he went. People wanted to see him and hear what he had to say, and even bring their sick and be healed by him. There was a movement that had started, and people wanted to be part of it. But Jesus knew there were other people who were threatened by him, who would go to great lengths to use his words and his actions against him to suppress this movement. But Jesus talked about this kingdom that he was ushering in, and he had to find a way to communicate this message about the kingdom in a way that would keep him out of trouble with both the religious leaders and the Roman authorities until the time was just right. So he used these stories called parables that had layers of meaning, and basically they were extended similes that communicated a deeper truth, and people really had to think about it. Jesus said that these parables would reveal truth to those who had ears to hear, and conceal the truth from those who had hard hearts and refused to listen. You see, these parables drew people in with common language and familiar imagery, but always left them with more to think about. If you're interested in finding out more how to read and understand the parables, check out this video from the guys at Bible Project. In Matthew 13, Jesus tells a series of parables about what the kingdom of heaven is like. But he sets up those parables first by telling another parable, one that you may be familiar with. It's called the parable of the sower. And in this parable, there's a farmer that scatters seed over all types of soil. And the soil represents 4 different people who will respond to the message. But you'll have to read that parable for yourself to find out who Jesus was talking about. Then Jesus goes on to tell 6 different parables in succession that all start with the phrase, "The kingdom of heaven is like." And in the first set of 3 kingdom parables, he compares the kingdom of heaven to a man who planted good seed in his field, but whose enemy broke in that night that he fell asleep and planted weeds among the good crop, and it all grew up together. And the kingdom of heaven is like, he says, a mustard seed that while it starts out small, grew so inexplicably large that the birds of the air were able to nest in its branches. And then he compares the kingdom of heaven to a small bit of yeast that a woman placed in a batch of 60 pounds of dough, and that yeast worked its way through the whole batch. And on first reading and first hearing, we might miss the point that Jesus was really trying to make by telling these parables, which is the point of Jesus speaking in parables. Then in the next set of kingdom parables, Jesus compares the kingdom to a treasure that was hidden, buried away in a field, and to a merchant searching for fine pearls. And in both of these cases, the finder of the treasure and the finder of the great pearl went back and sold everything that they had because what they found was worth so much more. And then in the last kingdom parable, Jesus compared the kingdom of heaven to a net that was cast out into the water and brought in all kinds of fish, both good fish and bad fish. The good fish were kept and the bad fish were thrown out. And this one seems to make a little bit more sense, potentially, but Jesus never let on who were the good fish and who were the bad ones. And then he left. He just walked away and left the people wondering, what was Jesus really trying to communicate about this kingdom of heaven that he spoke of? This kingdom was different than the kingdom that they lived among and the kingdoms that they had heard about. There was no mention of force or coercion or any fight or battle for that matter. Simply a kingdom that people could choose to accept or reject. A kingdom where all were invited, but many would choose not to enter. And a kingdom where some would enjoy the benefits for a time, but refuse full-on citizenship. Who was in and who was out? What was or is this kingdom that Jesus spoke of? Well, let me encourage you, as Jesus did to his original audience, to have ears to hear and eyes to see, because this kingdom is here among us now. And these parables, we have the privilege of looking back to see how they have played out over time and are still playing out in our world today. I encourage you to dig into these kingdom parables in Matthew chapter 13, and then I would love to talk with you about it. So leave me a comment in the comment section below or send me a message over on Instagram at Practically Biblical. I look forward to hearing from you because I'm going to live stream on Wednesday, September 23rd. I'll leave a time later in the week on my Instagram account, so be sure to follow me over there at Practically Biblical, same name over on Instagram. I hope in this live stream to be able to address some of your comments and respond to some of your questions and maybe even dig in a little bit deeper to some of these kingdom parables. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you found this content helpful as you pursue a greater understanding of the stories of Scripture. If so, let me know that by hitting that thumbs up icon. And if you do appreciate this content, consider checking out one of these other videos you see on the screen here. This one, I just finished a whole playlist on the fruit of the Spirit that I think you might enjoy. And this one, YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Then consider subscribing to this channel so you don't miss any new content or live streams that I have planned in the weeks to come. But either way, I'd love to have you join me right back here as we continue this journey on Practically Biblical.